Welcome to Rising Stars, where Miriam Knight, publisher of New Consciousness Review, interviews exciting new voices in the world of progressive and transformational books, films, and ideas, who offer intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us as we celebrate the conscious awakening and explore many expressions of consciousness in action.
Welcome to the Rising Stars Show, where we celebrate some of the best writers you may not have heard about, but who offer information and inspiration with much food for thought. I'm Miriam Knight, the publisher of New Consciousness Review, a website and magazine where we review many of the books and films contributing to the global shift in consciousness. With the pace of awakening speeding up, here on Rising Stars, I will be introducing you to 2 or 3 of these authors and artists each show, especially those who might not have as many opportunities to be heard. As you listen to our guests, I hope you will be able to add a few more pieces to the puzzle of who we are and all we can become. Our first guest today is Itzhak Beery. He's an internationally recognized shamanic healer and teacher. He was initiated into the circle of 24 yashaks by his Quechua teacher in Ecuador and by Amazonian Kanamari Page. He has also trained intensively with other elders from South and North America. He's the founder of the shamanportal.org and co-founder of the New York Shamanic Circle. He's on the faculty of the New York Open Center, and his work has been featured in the New York Times, films, TV, and webinars. He's an accomplished visual artist, and he's the owner of an award-winning advertising agency. He grew up on Kibbutz Beit Alpha in Israel and lives in New York, and I am delighted to welcome you, Yitzhak.
I'm so happy to be with you.
Oh, Yitzhak, when you made the transition and looked beyond the jungles of the New York advertising scene, how did you end up in the jungles of the Amazon?
Oh, that's a great question. It was a big struggle for me, actually, to make the transition. I've done advertising, but I really never fully, my heart was really not in it. I was wondering why I was chosen to do that, and I've done that with a lot of guilt feeling. So I was choosing always to work with nonprofit organizations, with people that are doing good, but not always you can do that. And I had a really difficult time accepting that this is what I do, encouraging consumption and all what you said, the jungle of advertising. And it actually was on one of my trips to the Shuar territory in the Amazon of Ecuador that the ayahuasca plant was giving me an answer to that, which was beautiful in a way. It shook my world in a way that it said that that shamans and people in the advertising are very similar in many ways. They have the ability to vision, to cater to people's needs and passions. And so I kind of accepted that, and I started to feel more comfortable with my own skin.
That's fascinating. I wouldn't have drawn that parallel, but it's absolutely understandable. I've heard from so many people who have reached a high level of success in what we would consider the modern world and feel something deep inside that isn't being fulfilled and really are driven to look outside for something to fill that void. And it really is a spiritual void, isn't it?
Of course it is. I was an artist, and I showed in galleries and museums, and I had an advertising agency. I won awards. I've done work. I have family and children, but there was something that was missing, especially when I got into my late 30s. I understood that there is something there that I'm not totally familiar with, and I wanted more. I wanted to know what's the meaning of all of that, the meaning of life, you can call it. And I think that a lot of people at that age, around the age of 40, going through this questioning, which is wonderful because it's the time that in the Kabbalah they talk about walking into the Pardes, into the mystery. It's an age where you've already been through many different life experiences, and you can start understanding more about your role in life and in your community. So yes, it's a great transition.
Now, when you started on this kind of path of the seeker, why did you choose the shamanic teachers in Latin America?
Well, I don't know if I chose that or it's chosen me, actually. I wasn't even aware of the word shamans, or, I mean, it's not that I didn't read about all kind of different experiences, but I never really dreamed that I would be doing this work. And it wasn't something that I said, I woke up one day and I said, I want to be a shaman or spiritual. I always thought that other people have that a great power and magic, but I never really realized that there is something in me that can actually do that. So I read a book, and I read about a workshop that was Michael Harner was giving, and I went there, and there's like a window opened in my mind, and I started to see visions, and what was so striking for me was that that all these visions really related to the person that I journeyed for, and I could not deny that power.
You said you started to see visions. Had you ever had any inkling in your earlier life that you had an active intuition?
I had, but I had out-of-body experiences. I had visions. I had dreams that came, but I never really paid attention to it. I thought that this is something, that I should not even consider. In many ways, I was a little afraid of that revelations. I pushed it to the side. I was too busy. I was busy doing my art career. I was busy doing advertising. I was busy raising children. I never really paid attention to it. But I think that when I did these shamanic journeys with Michael Harner, and then later on with John Perkins, I could not deny that the power of it and how it really affects the reality and my reality and the people that I worked with. And I actually went the first trip with John Perkins to Ecuador. I don't know exactly why. I didn't really made sense of it. I just knew that I have to go. There was like an inner voice that called me to do that. I didn't have the money. I didn't have the time. I didn't have I didn't have the right excuse to tell my wife and my children that I have to leave them for 2 weeks and not work. But I knew that I really have to be there. And it turned out that I met, I had these experiences in the jungle with the ayahuasca, and I had experiences with the yachaks, or the shamans of the Andes. And there where I met Don Jose Joaquin Pineda, who became my teacher a couple of years later. I can't really explain why. I mean, I think that in many ways it's a mystery. I just followed my heart, I think. And the funny thing is that I think that there is another, and there's a plan for us written somewhere above. And it turned out that a few years ago, when I went to teach in Poland, I did some research, and my cousin in Israel found a story about our family in Kolno in Poland. And it turned out that my great-grandfather was a Kabbalistic rabbi, and he was a healer. And he devoted his life to the same subject that I do, or I did at that time, which was the fight between good and evil, the constant battle within ourselves and with the outside world. And I was shocked that what I thought that is so unique to me that I discovered this route was actually fulfilling my great-grandfather or my ancestors' work and interest. So I'm not sure that we actually choosing our path or we are leading to our path.
That's fascinating. Itzhak, you put all of this into a memoir. What is the title of your book?
It's The Gift of Shamanism.
The Gift of Shamanism. And do you have a website?
Well, the website for the book is thegiftofshamanism.com. Mm-hmm. My website, my personal website is itzhakbeery.com. And I'm on Facebook if people want to contact me.
Uh-huh. Good. Well, I just wanted to get that in before we go to break. We have another minute or so. So how did your family react to all this?
Well, in the beginning, it was a little bit of a shock because what is it, my father taking away time from us and going to this jungle with crazy people and drink this crazy drug? And so they were very uncertain what they were, their security, their balance of their life changed. But as they saw me moving through this path and the work that I'm doing, they started to accept it. And actually, they're very proud of me now. And they accepting these changes. And I actually took all my family to a trip to Ecuador to meet the shamans and do healing ceremonies. And they were present in my initiations in Magdalena, the river, the spring water there near Imbambura. So they became part of my path, but I wouldn't say that it was easy on them in the very beginning.
I can imagine it wasn't. Well, we're going to take a little break now, and then we'll be right back with Itzhak Beery talking about the path of shamanism.
Free your mind with Om Times Radio, IOM FM.
Know what to do, just can't figure out how to fit it all into your busy life? It doesn't have to be that way. Hi, I'm Ellen Baisberg from Seamless Life. Join me every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern on Om Times Radio and learn the how of conscious living. Let me and my guests help make your life seamless.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network. What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business. And share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business.
The truth is, you can't change the world if you're broke. I know, I tried. Isn't it time you turned your life's calling into a profitable, freedom-based business? I'm Michelle Barr. Join me every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern for Sacred Success.
The Real Conscious Connection. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
And we're back, speaking with Itzhak Beery, talking about his book, The Gift of Shamanism, Visionary Power, Ayahuasca Dreams, and Journeys to Other Realms. Itzhak, I was so fascinated by the story of your inner drive to find, really to reconnect what seems to have been in your lineage. Do you think that anyone can become a healer or shaman, or does it really have to come down through the DNA?
Well, I think that, like many other shamans that I worked with in the Amazon and the Andes, that we are all shamans. There is no person on this earth that when he touches someone kindly or speak good words, kind words with another person, is not changing the person's mood or feelings. We all have dreams. We all have visions. We all have all these information that shamans do. If everybody have to become practitioners, I'm not sure. It's a calling. It's something that you have to feel in your heart if you want to pursue it. But if it's in our DNA, yes, we are all a spiritual being, and we are all healers. And this book is really about that. It's about encouraging people to meet their abilities and to confirm it and to use it in their everyday life.
Mm. Can you give us a few of the techniques that you discuss in the book that can help ordinary people heal themselves?
Well, there's the classic techniques of shamanic journeys, working with spirit or power animals or spirit of nature, the wakas, sacred objects. You may want to learn by taking a workshop with shamanic practitioners that you can find to learn it, and it's something that you can do and use it in your home or in anywhere you are. Actually, you don't really need always to lay down and close your eyes. You can actually go and meet your spirit guides and teachers. You can pay attention to your dreams, see the meaning and the connection between dreams and what they're coming to tell you. There is a technique there that I discussed, which is the long-distance viewing that you can develop to be able to travel to see other people or family or friends in faraway places, like I do. Visit my friends and my family in Israel and around the world. There are ability to read candles, which is something that I teach people to do, which is a very old techniques that people in the Amazon is using. There are so many different ways you can feel energy and receive information through your the palm of your hands, or through gazing at people and seeing their energy field around them. All of those techniques are available to you, and they are not expensive. They're actually incredibly free. And it's available to you every day, every time of the day. You don't have to go to a special place or temple to do that. You can just really concentrate, change the consciousness and change the wavelength of your brain and go into a trance and start receiving communication from the other world, from the unseen world.
You know, it's interesting. A lot of people, when they are driving, they kind of go into this altered state. And many people have experiences in that state. And I'd like to point out to our listeners that the United States government actually had a team of remote viewers during the Cold War years. And I think the Russians really had developed that into a fine art. So this is something that is a real effect. It's not imagination. I think that's one of the biggest challenges that people have to overcome when they have experiences such as the ones that Itzhak described, that you kind of tuck away under the rug because you don't have a context for them. So what we're trying to do here on this show is to give you that context and give you that reassurance that you should go for it. Absolutely. So you went to Ecuador and you took ayahuasca. Was that a kind of a make or break, a real watershed for you, or were you already moving in that direction of opening your third eye?
I already been, at that time I was already doing some work for 2 or 3 years. So I was working with spirit. I was kind of prepared to meet spirit and encounter them. But the ayahuasca ceremonies that I've done at the Shuar in the Amazon was a very important experience that I had. I've seen some images and received some messages or actually teachings about how the universe work and messages for my life. And I made some vows over there to the spirit of the Amazon, and Shaman Portal, the website, is really part of that vow to help the Amazon or help change consciousness of people so they can protect the lungs of the earth and the big snake anaconda who's journeying through all this beautiful land. So in many ways, I kind of devoted my life now to that promise that I made to the jungle of the Amazon.
You know, I've heard from many people from all walks of life of traveling to the Amazon, of doing ayahuasca and so on. Why is shamanism having such a resurgence all over the world?
I think that modern people who live in the digital society that we are in now, in this digital revolution that we are now experiencing, the shutdown of the senses, they're experiencing disconnect from the world around us. And it's very interesting because the people who most visit the Shaman Portal website are people from the Bay Area, from the West Coast, and from the East Coast, from New York City, and some other places, urban places in the country that are very high tech, and some from Europe, also the more advanced societies there. They all feel there is something is missing with all that digital world that we are creating, all that flat screen that we are constantly looking at. They don't give us community, real community, touch, feeling. They are eliminating our need to remember. So our mind is going blank because everything that we need to know, including the weather and phone numbers and information and history, is all in the Google search. But they to fulfill the need to be a human, we really need to use the sixth sense and all the other senses that we have together to fulfill why we are here. And I think that the fail of our governments and our corporations and the religion organization to give us real connection, real answers to our life problems is so magnified now and it's so transparent for so many people that we are all looking for real answers, and real answers we can only find, the way I see it, in the unseen world, in being totally human.
Being total human. What do you mean by that?
It's a human that is not only rely on outside instruments to confirm that he's human, that works from his heart, that is open to all people, that is connected to the earth and to all the elements, that is environmentally sustainable person, that is human. What we call human, right?
Being rooted in their humanity as opposed to their externalities. Yeah. What's your biggest concern for the world?
My biggest concern is that we don't live from our heart. I think that you can see it in the United States the most, I think, that in other places too, where you have so much violence, so much discrimination against races and against gay, lesbian, whatever, by genders, and you have so much dishonoring for poor people, for minorities. It is all a symptoms of not a bad people or evil people, but it's a symptoms of people who are living with fear of scarcity, not with openness and acceptance that the universe is such a magnificent place that can provide us with abundance of resources for everybody to share.
Well, speaking as an ad man, your kind of bread and butter is getting people to feel the sense of scarcity so that they will buy, the sense of not enough so that they will get a product to be complete. So it's interesting that you're pulling away from that.
Yes, and that was the disconnect that I felt for so many years. I could not. But you see, there's advertising that is not just that. You know, there's many advertising agencies or people that are doing very excellent work in promoting the environment, promoting green consciousness.
Well, I'm delighted to hear that, and may they prosper. And may you prosper, Itzhak.
Thank you.
And I hope that your book, The Gift of Shamanism, Visionary Power, Ayahuasca Dreams, and Journeys to Other Realms, does prosper indeed. It's a fascinating read. I really recommend it to our listeners. And your website is thegiftofshamanism.com. Itzhak Beery, thank you so much for being with us today. It's been a delight.
It's been a delightful experience for me, and I really like people to, through the reading of that book, encourage them to use their own.
We'll be right back after this break.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Hi, this is Angela Levesque, host of Entanglement Radio. Join me Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern for inspiring conversations with visionaries in spiritual science and conscious healing. Entanglement Radio, Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern. Transcendent talk for the conscious mind.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
And we are back with our next guest. It's a two-piece band, a Hunglish two-piece band called Cinnabar. And it includes Jaiv from Australia and Szilvia from Hungary, hence Hunglish. They have a signature sound and visual style that blends organic and electronic instruments with matching film footage. Cinnabar presents the atmospheric Magic Lives Here live music and film show. It features Jaiv on piano, and Szilvia on voice and flute, all playing to synchronize short films. The show invites expansion and entertainment, emphasizing our connection to everyone and everything as shared experience made personal. And it reminds us that the magic lives inside all of us. The show is both an oral and visual journey. And here I welcome Jaiv and Szilvia.
Hi, Miriam.
Hi, Miriam. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm glad you could join us all the way from Ibiza.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity to be on your fantastic show.
Tell me, how did all of this start for you?
Ever since I was small. I started classical piano when I was about 4 or 5. And I think I was just always fascinated with music, and my parents bought a piano. I started playing, and it didn't sort of come that naturally at first, but gradually, and I took lessons, and obviously gradually got better at it. And I've always just been incredibly drawn to sound and atmosphere, and the incredible emotions and the incredible feelings that you can generate through sound. So, and it just continued on through then, and through sort of a lot of the usual kind of things that I suppose most musicians do. As I grew, I got to be a teenager, and I taught myself guitar and bass, and joined a lot of garage bands and experimented with a lot of different things. And it's typical, and played in a lot of bars and pubs and for quite a number of years, and never quite figured out for a while why it didn't quite sort of do it for me. And eventually, after I got into my 20s, and I lived in the top of Australia in the tropics in Darwin, which is a very malleable, very kind of amazing kind of place, and very different from where I grew up in the south of Australia. And it was a very expansive place, very open, and I think that's where I discovered a lot of freedom. I first discovered what the word really meant, and that was also the place where I started first to compose some of my sort of classically based extended pieces of music.
I'm just curious, did Aboriginal, didge music and everything, did that influence you at all?
Surprisingly enough, no. Even though in the top of Australia there are what are they called? They're not called reservations like you have in America, but there are huge tracts of land that they actually set aside for the Aboriginal people, and you actually need permits to go into those. And I was playing in bands at the time, and we did get to play in some of those communities, and it did have quite an impact on me, just to see how the nomadic people lived, and just their lifestyle, and also their connection to the land, and how for 40,000 years or so they had managed to live in what white people would consider to be incredibly harsh conditions, and not only survive but prosper, and just the way their lifestyle, the way of life, the way they treated nature and themselves and the animals and everything, just had quite an impact on me, I think. Yeah.
So how would you describe your music and film show? How did that all come together?
That came together after I relocated to Bali about 6-7 years ago, after spending basically most of my life in Australia and playing in various bands and the various configurations, and then basically deciding to just go solo, really, because I think that the things I was doing and being with other people can be really great and can be quite collaborative. But finding, it's like anything, you've got to find the right combination of people that are heading in the same direction at the same time, with the same kind of feeling in their heads and their hearts. And I didn't quite sort of seem to manage to pull that off. So I thought I'd go it alone, just so that I wouldn't be held ransom to other people, which often happens to when you put a lot of time and energy into projects for many years and then it doesn't sort of turn out. So I decided to relocate. I had an opportunity, and I sold up everything that I had in Australia, house, bikes, studio, everything, and thought I would just move to Bali. And I had the idea in the year 2000 that what I wished to do was just to take some of the compositions that I've been putting together over the years, especially the extended pieces, the more orchestral kind of pieces, and put matching video footage to them. So it would be not only an oral experience, but it would also be a visual experience, and to marry the two together and to edit things precisely so you would get much more of an impactful experience, basically. So, yeah.
And what were you hoping that the audience would get out of it? Were you doing it because this is something that you wanted to get out of your heart, or did you also have the audience in mind?
Well, I think it's both, really, because it's, I think when one goes through one's own transformative journeys and the sort of steps you take and the effect that it has, I think, and especially when you have a medium like music and visuals, the hope is, or the goal is to put that together in such a way so that others can also use it, maybe not in exactly the same way that you have come upon it yourself, but to use it as a vehicle that then they can jump in and take, and also so that they can find the magic themselves that I would find in music, and the exhilaration and just the amazement and the effect that it would have on my life. And then I thought, wow, if you can marry interesting and amazing music and visuals together, that it would just be such a much more impactful thing to do. Also, around the year 2000 or so, I think I was getting exposed to people who were starting to do that. But I found with a lot of the music and the visuals, often you'd have different people doing the visuals and different people doing the music. So often it wasn't very nice for me, and I found that the music would be great and the visuals would be great, but often they didn't seem to kind of quite gel and blend for me. And I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful to actually attempt to put the two together and really, really marry them? Yeah.
Bali seems to be the ideal location for finding magic. It seems to be such an exotic and colorful and really magic saturated place. Did you find it that way?
Interesting you say the word saturated, because it is quite that way, and can be incredibly intense, and it can be such a strong mirror just because of the intensity of the energy, and I guess it's incredibly populated too. So, and these days it's incredibly populated by Westerners. A lot of Westerners live there, as well as, of course, the Balinese and the Javanese and other folk. And it has quite an incredible intensity, much more so than when I first started going there about 25, 30 years ago. But there is definitely an incredible quality there that beckons change and transformation. And basically whatever you bring with you and carry within your head and your heart is going to be mirrored back to you, and often very quickly, and multiplied a lot of times. And sometimes you're not ready for that, and it can be quite challenging. So the whole picturesque thing about, yes, it's picturesque, yes, it's wonderful, yes, it's the island of the gods and all the other advertising stuff. Yep, can be that definitely, but wow, it can also be quite, especially when you start living there. When you only go there for holidays and trips, as I did many times, you get a bit of that surface magic and a bit of the wow, and you get that stuff to take home with you. But once you live there, you find it's got so many different layers and so many different realities existing in the same place at the same time. And you can tap into any of those. And depending, like I said before, what's in your head and your heart and what you wish to achieve, you can actually do that quite quickly, as I found out, especially after I met Szilvia.
So tell me what, we'll get to Szilvia in a moment, but what can guests expect from attending one of your performances?
Basically an audio-visual journey. And, well, the way the setup works is we set up a large video screen, or the place where we're putting on a show has a large video screen in the middle of the stage. And I set up the piano on one side. Szilvia basically has a microphone and a flute on the other side. And videos roll, and we just play along with them, play along live. And it's a journey, a bit like sort of taking a walk down through the countryside with lots of left and right turns, and sometimes without indicating. So I think it takes the listener and the seer on a multi-layered journey.
Is
And
there
I
like a
think
storyline?
Storyline?
Yes
Szilvia?
and no. Yes and no. It's basically there is an opening and there is an invitation for everybody to kind of participate with an open heart and an open mind. And the journey itself is pretty individual. Like when you participate in a yoga class, even though you are with many people, but your individual journey is happening in your yoga mat. And at the end, there is an integration. Because we find from the feedbacks we receive that it's pretty intensive for people. So at the end, there is a really nice and relaxing integration of the whole performance to basically be able to go home and feel that what you receive can stay with you and you can just let it grow within, rather than sometimes we just participate or attend on a performance and after a couple of weeks we forget about it, but it feels that this one somehow gels in and stays and grows within.
That's very interesting. It sounds quite like a shamanic journey, which is what the subject of our previous guest was discussing. So it's funny how the two come together.
Can be. I think the thing with ours is not to be so much intrusive with people or tell people kind of where to go with it, but
Jaiv,
to kind of suggest,
we're going to have to hold that thought, and we're going to come right back to it, but we're just about to go to a break. So when we come back, I hope you'll tell us about that.
Absolutely.
We will.
Well, my break music seems to have disappeared.
Szilvia, maybe you could sing. Or, just a thought.
Okay. Interesting. Well, we will just carry on until we're told otherwise.
All right.
Cool.
So. What? Yeah.
Oh, suggestive, yes. Basically, music and visuals are more suggestive. And I was really sort of careful about this because sometimes when you sort of...
I hear it in the background. I do hear it in the background. Finally.
Yes,
Okay.
Yes.
Well, producers, naughty. But we'll be right back.
That's the right button.
We're speaking with Jaiv and Szilvia of Cinnabar.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Know what to do, just can't figure out how
Host
to
your
fit it
show
all into
on
your busy
IOM
life?
FM,
It doesn't
the
have to
radio
be that
network
way.
of Om Times
Hi, I'm
Media,
Ellen
one of the
Danesford
more
from
recognized
Seamless
brand
Life.
names in
Join
the
me
conscious
every
community
Wednesday at
and is
9
backed by
Eastern
the
on
extensive
Om Times
marketing
Radio.
reach of
And
Om
learn
Times.
the how
Hosting a
of
show on
conscious living.
IOM FM
Let me and my
immediately
guests
connects
help
you with
make
our
your life
extensive
easier.
dedicated community. As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Radio Namaste leads you down the yellow brick road into portals of consciousness with the blue collar goddess as your host. Interviews with humans who could be famous or just popular, and answers to everything are on the agenda. Tune into Om Times Radio and drop in on Thursdays at 3 Eastern. It's a different brand of enlightenment.
Conscious media for conscious minds. Om Times.
Well, we're back with my guests, Jaiv and Szilvia from the group Cinnabar.
Yo.
Yo. How did you two meet? How did you two meet?
Oh, I had a feeling you were going to ask that one next. Szilvia, would you like to? We actually met at a stand-up comedy workshop, of all things. We had a mutual friend in Bali called James, and who used to do biodancer and also do comedy improv. And at the time, I remember I thinking to myself, God, I'm getting this sort of show together. And I haven't been on stage for a bit because it's been taking me a while to sort of put the whole thing together and what have you. And I sort of thought, wouldn't it be great to get some stage skills up and all that kind of confidence and what have you. And so stand-up improv on the spot seemed like a kind of cool idea. So I went along to a couple of sessions, had an absolutely amazing time. And it's incredible what people come up with in the moment when you're just given a sketch or something to do without thinking about it. No conscious mind enters, and it's just purely, it's amazing. So Szilvia came along to one of the sessions and we met.
That's sweet.
And it was a really wonderful connection. I was just going to continue the first time, but I was just actually so mesmerized with Szilvia. The first time I forgot to ask her out after sort of, isn't it funny how things like that happen? Didn't make the same mistake second time.
He can be taught. So what is Szilvia's role in the project?
Later. Szilvia, would you like to tell? Well, Szilvia has helped me incredibly with the editing. She's also appears in some of the videos. She has the most amazing singing voice, which is like operatic and is like 3 octaves or something. I don't know the whole technical thing, but she has an amazing range. And she also plays flute, which incidentally happened. And so a couple of the tunes that she had on the flute just happened to fit some of the pieces that I'd sort of created years before. And so it was just one of those wonderful kind of magical meetings, which I didn't actually ask for. I just sort of thought, God, I'm quite happy just doing things on my own and just happy to go with it. And I was looking for a wonderful, creative, happy partner to be with. But this was like such an incredible bonus when I found out that you could actually sing out all these other wonderful qualities that it was just like, wow.
Where do you get the inspiration for these things? I was looking at some of the videos on YouTube, and they really are kind of magical, entrancing.
I'm not quite sure how to answer that. I mean, where do we get these things from? We just, I think from a desire, and I think also because I'd been to Bali so many times and I'd started composing a lot of the pieces that I had written, some of the ones that are in the show, not all of them. And so Bali seemed like a very fitting place to kind of finish a project that had been kind of started many, many years before or inspired in part by it. And so I think part of that was completing a circle and a whole cycle. And I'd always found a lot of magical times and experiences in Bali. Not always peachy keen and wonderful and everything. Some of them were quite challenging and difficult, but always incredibly poignant. So I think a lot of it was from that, and just from having a fairly nomadic life, lots of travelling within Australia, and where else, Sylv?
I think the people we've met, they had, we had some really deep friendships, and they were quite inspiring. And also what the two of us are creating together and the dynamic as our relationship grows and deepens, I think it also has an impact on some of the videos. And as we allow ourselves to grow and expand as creative artists. So it's an ongoing and ever-growing project, I suppose.
It's been quite synergistic too, because I was just starting on the first couple of videos, and I was wondering how I was going to pull all this off. I had this great idea in my head of what I wanted to do, as one often does. I had no idea how I was going to do it. I bought myself a camera. I got a video program for my computer. And then I thought, great, now what? And it's like one of those funny things. I had a couple of friends in Bali too who were into art galleries and art, and they sort of helped out a bit and sort of started me off. But it wasn't until Szilvia came along that everything just kind of clicked into place. And within about a year and a half, we'd, I think, completed 8 or 9 videos, which when I think about it and look back on it now, I probably would have taken me years and years to do on my own if I could have even kind of done it. So synchronicity and that wonderful synergy you get when you have a great vision and passion in your heart, and then you meet the right people and the right circumstances, and it all just comes together.
And I think also Bali is an amazing place for experiencing magic or experiencing spirituality. And it's because Balinese are actually living their spiritual life. For them, spirituality or existence of the God is not a question. They live that. So for us, it became more and more real that actually we are creative gods and goddesses and we can just play. And as we became more open and more playful, it became easier and easier to have an idea that, all right, what the next video is going to be about. Mm-hmm. And it was fascinating to be in that energy.
It's wonderful that people like you and like my earlier guest Itzhak are bringing these connected magical experiences from the East and the Southern Hemisphere into the colder North, if you will, the colder West.
The temperate, yeah.
Yeah. How did you get that name, the band name, Cinnabar?
Oh, well, originally I started off years ago with calling myself Keymaker for some, I'm not sure, probably because I play the keyboard and it's sort of making music with keys. So that kind of stuck for a bit. And then meeting Szilvia, and Szilvia was like a redhead. And we didn't quite know what to really call Szilvia, so we just made it Keymaker and the redhead. But then something really strange happened. I think a year or so ago, Szilvia changed her hair colour. And so we sort of thought, wow, Keymaker and the brunette just didn't kind of sound really cool. And I just sort of thought it was a change. Plus, it was a very long name and something that I started when I was on my own, sort of musically with the project. So I thought it'd be nice to just have a fresh name because we, just with the collaboration, it just felt fresher and sweeter and nicer.
And you were reinventing yourself, so it should go to the name as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. What are your future plans?
Well, we just moved to Ibiza a few weeks ago. It was a couple of months ago, because the time in Bali just kind of came to a close, and I guess sort of often, or things can happen like that. Have a project or a desire or a certain outcome or whatever, and it kind of comes to fruition. And that's probably as far as we could have gone in Bali. Bali, as wonderful as it is for many things, cannot provide everything or probably the next stages in our evolution just because of its very nature. So I've always wanted to, because Szilvia's from Hungary, obviously, and I have European connections too through my parents, and I'd always wanted to come to a larger marketplace, but also one that was a little more European, especially with the traditions and with just the ambience here. And I mean, being in Ibiza is just like, neither of us had ever been here before, and it just came to us to be a wonderful place to be. And it has turned out even more so since being here. It's got archaeological remnants from the Phoenicians and this amazing fort here, and the old town is just charming and 18th, 17th century, and it's got such a lot of history and a lot of, I think, culture, a lot of inspiration and sort of different things that we can relate to. And plus, it's such a great much larger marketplace because of the whole European theatre here. So
Sure.
places basically to perform, and theatres and the summer festivals and so many other opportunities, which Asia just doesn't quite provide.
Well, if people want to invite you to perform somewhere, where would they get a hold of you?
We have a website or a web page, and it's tuneteams.com.
Can you say that again?
http://tuneteams.com/Cinnabar. And Cinnabar is spelled Cinnaba, like the crystal.
Very good. Very good. Well, it's been, great fun. And so if you want to invite Cinnabar to your next event, go to tuneteams.com/Cinnabar. It's actually what?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say that it'll be, we have an appearance in your NC Review magazine too.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you, Jaiv and Szilvia. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us, and visit ncreview.com. Join me next week to meet more rising stars of the new consciousness. And until then, shine brightly. I'm Miriam Knight. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.